am Michele Sebag. I'm from the Pascal 2 Network of Excellence. So Pascal, as you know, is for pattern analysis, statistical modeling, and computational learning. And actually, I was in charge of the challenge program. And then we can see that challenge might be a very polysemic word, because the definition of the challenges in Pascal was a bit different from the challenges that Vincent was saying. And still, I wouldn't say it was merely a benchmark story. So the vision one, the one that Vincent was describing, is the defining the core issues and also measures of progress on this scale. And what we were trying to do, and the reason why it was a program, the challenge in Pascal, is actually we were using a more bottom-up vision of what is a challenge. And basically the challenge is that you would have someone from the community who would decide that there is a nice issue to work on and too big for, say, a single group. So the idea was to design a proposal, to have it reviewed, of course, and then to attract people of Pascal or outside to work on this. And so the point was, you have to define actionable research questions, that's for sure, but also the fact that you have to attract the others means that your challenge has to be, in some sense, fun. And I would argue that this is a measure also of progress and doing, say, sustained contribution to the state of the art. Okay, and there is also something which is kind of interesting, is the fact that this vision of challenges is not structuring the community a priori, but a posteriori, because all the material, all the resources you are building in this enterprise, I mean, all the websites and the data sets, and what other people have been doing this, and the survey papers, then this is very valuable teaching material for not only researchers, but also students and engineers. So we wanted to have these challenges, and also, of course, we were oriented toward the main goals of a cognitive system, and saying that actually the primary skills is that you are able to understand what you see and able to understand what you hear. Okay, what is typically much comes in the form of language. So the category of challenges, the first one was about the core goals of vision, speech, and language. But there were also other challenges about advancing the state of the art in machine learning. And for instance, at some point, someone, Joaquin Quinonero Candela, was looking into what happens if the test examples, they don't have the same distribution as the training examples. And actually, you can see, so, and this became later on the transfer learning and the covariate shift and the like. And you can see this as just one example, as something which is very relevant for a robot in particular, because basically, the environment where you are training is almost never the environment. I mean, even if it's not a simulator, is almost never the environment where you have to demonstrate, right? So there was the active learning, the causality identification, and also, of course, the scalability. This is for everyone. And also, there was a third flavor of challenges, which was reaching out, and which was also very important, in particular for, say, for the European Commission, right? I mean, and justifying our sponsors. Thank you. That to see that we can have a lot of real value now produced. For instance, those of e-science. Okay, so this is again for researchers, you might argue. But typically, if you can have a device which, when put on your heart, would say if there is something worrying into the way your heart is behaving, then definitely this is good value, and this is machine learning. So it's not as simple as defining a benchmark, right? I mean, because you see, many of the challenges were actually the result of a co-evolution between the organizers and the participants. Typically, what are the scores? What are the measures of progress? This in itself is a research question. And there is also the fact that if you do this several times in a round, then you will see what is so easy to cheat with. And of course, you know, I mean, if someone can cheat, then someone will cheat, right? So then the point is that the goal will gradually move toward the most interesting parts of the research. Okay. You have the fact also that many people, they are after efficiency. This is what you kind of, well, but it's also very important that the challenge organizers, they would reward the originality, because original thing will become the effective, perhaps, will become the effective things tomorrow. And there is also the fact that in many domains, the machine learning technique can provide insights to the human experts into what is really important. So, and then the idea was, what we saw is that challenges were setting the trend in the field, because those resources, they were shared by everyone, and so it was much easier to compare oneself to the others, and it was much more difficult to make one believe that we are really, to believe all the good we are saying about ourselves, just because you can see all the problems where you don't make it. Okay. So, and I think that this is also related to what you're saying. The challenges, that way, you can have relatively unbiased answers to questions of general interest. You have the fact that if you are studying, say, many aspects, right, then you know, you might remember there was a paper about saying that the main point is to choose the right data sets to demonstrate your technique, right? Because where's the right choice? Well, almost everything is true. And then the point is that if you have this, then you can face the fact that some techniques actually are not as robust as, say, the literature would say. And there are examples, for instance, the examples about unsupervised learning, which came as a very interesting challenge. So the idea is that you remember that yesterday Jan Peters was saying that one of our resources was were the graduate students, right? I mean, how to shape the features and how to shape the problem and how to shape the rewards and everything, right? And then how to block this, how to prevent this. This unsupervised challenge was you had the data and you had many goals, but then the idea was that the participants were measured on learning, supervised learning, and the data, the true data, the labeled data, were only known in the morning for, say, the morning after. So there is no way that you can, say, distort and shape and tune all the features. You had to rely on the features you were building in an unsupervised way, or using the other problem. And then the answer is yes, supervised learning is something which can help in building the features in your domain. Okay, so causal discovery, learning from just one example. So those are things. I think that I should hurry up. So I will just show you a few examples of the most successful challenges which have been done in Pascal. And one of them, actually not very related to robotics, but still, I hope you will agree, very related to cognitive systems. And the first one is recognizing textual entailment. You have a paragraph, and then you have a statement, and then the question is, does the paragraph entail the statement? Okay. So more of this. You will see here, in this case, the sentences, they don't have to be true. Look at the second one, for instance. The point is to see whether the H text implies the hypothesis. And you can see that this is a building block for many say, skills related to language. For instance, this is the building block for comprehension, for understanding what you're reading, for being able to answer a question. You could see that some of the examples in the slide before were just question answering. For extracting, it could be done also for checking whether this is just paraphrase, okay, or for summarizing a text, for filling knowledge population based and the like. And so this challenge, which was head by Ido Dagan and Bernardo Magnini from the Bar-Ilan University and also from the University of Trento and the Mitre and the Sète Center. Then it was so successful that it was integrated into NIST, and it went into the track of the text analysis conference for the last 4 years. And something which is even more perhaps exciting with the future of this challenge is that you see, okay, so I guess that many of us are teaching and giving marks to the students. And you can see that perhaps the future of this kind of thing is to be able to evaluate what the students are doing for, say, open questions. If, of course, the question in the exam is just tick A, B, or C, well, it's not really difficult. But if the answer is something which is an open form, then it's much more difficult to know whether the student has understand or not. And this is the kind of thing where you can reuse the building block of textual entailment. So I will show also a little bit of the visual object challenge. So basically, which was head by Chris Williams and Andrew Zisserman from Oxford and Mark Everingham and Luc Van Gool. And then the point is that you want to know whether a given thing is present in an image. And going further, you want to have the segmentation of the object, and you want to have the class segmentation. And then this visual object challenge has been going on for I think for 8 rounds in a row since 2004. And then the good thing is that from year to year, you can see that the state of the art is advancing. And you can, say, relearn, say, old lessons such that if you are learning with a lot of data, then it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And that ensemble learning also makes a lot of sense, and massive computation. You can also discover, on the top of this, new metrics. For instance, something which might be also, say, relevant for the EUCog, the fact that not only you want to have a result, but there is something which is you have a trade-off between the result and also the time needed in order to have these results, right? The timeliness. Okay, the super methods. And this will continue in the Imaginate Large-Scale Visual Recognition Challenge. Okay, so I will just say a word, if I can, about the gesture recognition. So this is something that you can see as well as a building block of understanding what's going on in the world. You have, of course, you have the language of science for the deaf people. You have the fact that it's also good for art. I mean, it's good for quite many things in the way people interact with each other. Okay, games, and also teaching the communication, the effective laws of communication. And then the point is that, I mean, to make the story short, the point is that it turned out that it was possible to learn to recognize gestures from batches where you had a single example of each gesture, right? And it means that basically people, the gesture which have a meaning, then probably they are isolated points into the search space, which makes discriminating between them doable. Okay, and then this kind of thing. So I will perhaps skip the causality identification, despite the fact that the societal impact of the causality regarding your health, regarding the economy, regarding the, say, the world is something which is very relevant. And the fact that we can't experiment on those questions because experiments are basically infeasible. So in order to conclude, I will say that the main lesson, if we can, if the lesson learned from the Pascal challenges, if it can be useful to the EUCog, is the fact that there is a value in having the researchers proposing challenges to the rest of the community. Okay, and sharing this, and say, well, to have a bottom-up, say, design. And also, in order to define an actionable research question, say, for instance, I don't know if this is actionable, but something which was heard in many ways, in many flavors yesterday, is what is the trade-off between the innate knowledge, that the thing that the designer can provide the robot with, and the things which must be acquired by the robot. So, and this has to do, of course, with the generality of the skills you learn. So I will conclude in saying that you can see a challenge as something which is in between a conceptual and an operational way of structuring the community. Okay, thank you.